Did you know that there's only a handful of rabies-free countries in the world? And if you look very clearly, Canada is not one of those countries. But that's okay because Japan is. That's right, the land of ramen and waifus is also the land of strict import policies. Who would have guessed except like everyone who has ever looked the slightest bit into this country at all? And if you've seen me literally anywhere on the internet in the last 6 months, you would know that I've planned to do the super easy, definitely not hard at all thing of moving to Japan. Except there's one problem. I'm officially in Japan and I brought my dogs here and it took a lot of work to get it done. It wasn't necessarily expensive, it was just very scary. There's so many rules you have to follow, and if you don't want to do it yourself, you have to pay a company to do it for you, like $5,000, which I do not have. So I decided to risk it for the biscuit and do it on my own, which was a stress-inducing 7 months. You can get it done in 6, but I took 7 just because of bad scheduling. Girl, who are you lying to? You ran out of money. When I did this process to get my dogs from Canada to Japan, I realized there is almost no content on how to actually do it, other than the actual Japanese website, which gives you the rundown of how to do it. But some of the translations are not very clear. And this is one of those processes where you really do not want to mess it up. If you mess up one step, your dogs either get denied at the border, or when you arrive, they get quarantined for up to 180 days. So needless to say, this was very stressful because in Japan, documentation is extremely strict. One of the reasons why I'm making this video is that so other people can do the same thing I did without having to pay a company and maybe have a bit of a better time and some questions answered, because a lot of things I just had to guess, which is not the way you want to do this. I was lucky in the fact that I did everything right, but nerve-wracking. And that is the point of this video, is I'm going to do step-by-step to show you how to do it so that you can do it on your own as well. So if you made it this far into the video, I'm going to assume you've already done a little bit of research because you're planning to bring your pet to Japan. So you might already be wondering to yourself, she brought 2 pets to Japan. Is she crazy? Yes. But me being delusional enough to start this process is not the topic of this video. I'm going to try to break this down as simple as possible. Step 1. Go get your dog chipped. If you are a responsible pet owner, your dog will already be chipped. But I'm not judging. I had to get one chipped because I had one chipped already, and I guess I just decided one was enough. The next step you gotta do is get a rabies shot. It can be on the same day that you get your dog's chipped, as long as the chip comes before the rabies shot. So this was the very first actionable step that I took in this whole process. So right in this one, we got Astro chipped because he didn't have a microchip, and then we also got Tech his first rabies shot and Astro his first rabies shot. I did shop around to find a good vet that was cheaper because I know I would probably have to do this entire process at the same vet. Now comes the waiting period, where you have to wait 30 days, technically 31 days, because the day you get your first rabies shot counts as day 0. You can get it past the 31 days as long as it is not before the 31 days. This is what I did. I think there was about 2 months in between the first rabies shot and the second rabies shot. Second vet visit. Now you have to get the second rabies shot and the rabies titer test. The rabies titer test is one of the most important parts. You can get these both done on the same day, as long as the second rabies shot is before the titer test blood draw. On the website, even though it says you can get them both in one day, it does recommend that you wait a little while, but I didn't, and my vet said, and I respect her professional opinion. So this was the second rabies shot in the titer test, nothing too special. This is why I say choose your vet wisely. I didn't have a vehicle this time, and it took me like 2 hours to get there. Okay, so we were waiting in the vet's office. I gave her my forms and she did the checkup. And now we just wait. Yeah, I know. It's been such a stressful morning. The next part is the reason why this takes so long, and that is the 180-day waiting period. Also keep in mind the waiting period starts on the day you draw the blood for the rabies titer test.
So much noise. Why are you making so much noise?
Not on the day that you get the results back, so you can kind of just forget about it. My vet emailed me the results for the rabies titer test, but I didn't even go and pick up the actual paper results until 10 days before I was coming to Japan. And now you just chill with your dogs. Just chill with your dogs for a little bit. Even though this is technically the easiest part, this was the most aggravating for me because I had the 2 vaccines. I sent my dog's blood to the United States and I still had to wait 6 months. I understand it's the incubation period for rabies and it's due diligence, but I just wanted to get to Japan. So after you waited a bunch, the next step is 40 days before you actually go to Japan. You have to send all of your documents that you got from your vet, so the 2 rabies vaccines and the rabies titer test results, along with your plane information and where you were landing in Japan, either by plane or by boat. Keep in mind, when I did this, I didn't actually have a ticket yet because I was still dealing with my own personal visa stuff. So I just sent it anyways, and they emailed me back saying, when you figure it out, let us know. So they weren't that strict on having the full flight information as long as the date is right. So if you give them a date saying I am coming on the 10th, when you book your flight, you have to book it for the 10th. This is a 2-parter because when they accept your notification, you also have to send a separate thing to the airport letting them know that you are showing up so that the people that check all your documents can be there waiting for you. And lastly, and probably the most stressful part, you have to go back at least 10 days before you plan to travel to Japan to your vet to get them to sign the AC form, and then you have to take that form to the government export vet to get them to look over everything and sign it as well.
This one we had to wake up super early for this journey, but you can already tell, like my guys, they're used to this trip. They know what's up. They weren't scared this time.
Okay, so we are on our way to the first vet. So the game plan today, we have 2 vets. We have to go to the private vet to get them to sign the first half of the Japanese import forms and the first half of the Canadian export forms. And then we have to go to the Canadian vet and they will sign the second half. And it is very early and we are very tired. And we've already been whining on the first streetcar.
They're all cuddled up with me. Yeah, you could say we're not fans of the vet.
Who would like to go first? Pastor would. I was also able to pick up this, which is their rabies titer test that was sent off to the United States, which is the key component. This is why we had to wait 6 months.
I mentioned this so many times throughout this video, but take the time to actually go over the numbers and check, because once the government signs that little stamp, you can't redo it. And they're very thorough in checking on the Japan side to make sure everything matches. So if the microchip number is off, if anything is off, they will reject your animal or it will be quarantined for 180 days.
Keep in mind, this is where your government will tell you if you're allowed to bring your dog outside of the country, and even if everything is good for export, they will still deny you the stamp that you need if they think you can't get your animal into the importing country. I had footage of this part and I don't know where it went. This process took like at least an hour because the guy there verified import and export regulations. This part is stressful because they can deny you before you even leave, even after the Japanese government approves your notification that you sent 40 days in advance. The Canadian government can still be like, I don't think you're gonna get in.
I didn't film much because it was a government office, but I will put captions because it is very hard to hear. Skip this part if you don't care about the logistics.
I need to know I did this properly.
Yeah, as long as you're reading the info. So look at this template. Just look at it. This is how they do it. I have examined the pet above. That's your pet information. Good health, free, safe travel, free of parasites and diseases, blah blah. Right? So this is the letter you were asking. So this is what they're afraid of.
Yeah. I'm so happy for this to be over. Everything looks all good though?
Yeah. Everything is over.
Okay, good.
That's why I signed it.
Okay.
Anything was not good, I will say. Yeah, everything is done perfect. Date of birth, name, that date, rabies vaccines, side effect form, and the vet. The date is there, the license number, and that's me.
And that's pretty much the entire process that you have to do on your country's side. I will say choose an airline wisely because some of them can be more strict than the actual governments. I heard horror stories about Air Canada, but I was lucky enough my dogs both breezed right through, even though some of the requirements were a little bit off. Not the import requirements, but the carrier requirements. I don't remember how much footage I got because on the Japan side, I was so stressed, I was sweating, I was not having a good time, I was overstimulated. Oh. To make a long story short, they go over your documents with you, they verify every number, you have to take your dog out of the kennel so that they can scan with the microchip, and then you have to put your dog back in. After a 15-hour flight, it took 3 gate agents to help me put my dog back in his carrier. I do not blame him for not wanting to go back in. This process, I also read online, had a history of being sketchy and difficult. They found one mistake on one of my forms for tech. It wasn't a huge mistake. They found one little typo on one of tech's forms, but they were super nice, chill about it. They just asked me for for verification, so I told them, and then they're like, oh, okay. So anything that you read online that says that they're extremely strict, they are, but as long as you have all the important stuff done and it's done right, it's pretty chill and easy. Don't fall down the Reddit rabbit hole of horror stories like I did. Good morning. I had a total of 2.5 hours of sleep after finishing packing. Today I'm moving to Japan. Is this supposed to be a really calm, nice, like 3-hour walk?
Okay, it has definitely let up a bit. We've already done an hour, but I think we're gonna go for like a little bit longer because it's not raining anymore. The one I really care about is Tech. This is Tech. This is going underneath. But Astro is gonna be with me. So at any point, like I can just put down a little pee pad so that he can go to the bathroom. But as long as Tech goes, then I'm happy.
So once I got to the airport, I had to pay any fees. I had to get my dogs all checked in before I could go get checked in. I felt so bad looking at Tech there. The whole process took like maybe 40 minutes. Then I had to go to the big baggage area. Once Tech was all ready to go under cargo, the guy said I could leave, but like I was on the verge of crying, so I waited. It took about 10 minutes for the guy to come pick him up, and I just sat there and watched.
I'm actually gonna cry. That was so sad. That was so sad.
After I stood there for about 10 minutes and thought about every bad thing that could possibly happen, it was Astro and I, our turn to go through. I did have to take him out of his carrier to go through.
He's so cute.
But Astro was such a good boy. Normally he's a wild card at home, so I was honestly very impressed with him with how calm he was. I think he was just really stressed out.
Okay, we finally made it to the lounge. This is mostly whiskey. Astro's right here. He's being a really good boy in his bag. Yeah. I was actually really surprised because they didn't even ask to measure his bag. Everything I read online showed like people, like 50% of people get denied their dog boarding. And they didn't even measure him. They didn't even weigh him. They're like, oh, that's a dog on board. We don't even have to weigh you.
We stayed in the lounge for about 40 minutes, and then it was time to board. So we made our way over to our gate, and on the flight here, you can see he's out. We just got in. The flight attendant came over and told me, like, by the way, you have to put him properly under. I was watching Tech's tracker app and getting a little nervous because the doors were about to shut and nobody came and said anything to me yet, so I'm nervous here trying to ask.
Excuse me, do you know if my dog boarded yet?
If your dog boarded?
Yeah, there's a dog going underneath. Do you know?
I wouldn't know, but you would have it on your app. If you open the Air Canada app.
I had checked it and it didn't say anything yet.
I don't know. I've never been asked that before. If you go to... Oh, sorry. Do you have the Air Canada app?
Yeah, this is the app.
Okay, so go here. I wonder if it would be under bag tracking.
In the past, I've gotten texts when things were
Oh, yeah. Pet
items.
loaded.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
you're welcome.
Okay, tech was loaded 2 minutes ago.
I wasn't recording, so I didn't get it on film, but the pilot did come and tell me, like, just so you know, Tech is boarded, he's good, and so much relief. Then the flight started. Didn't hear anything from Astro. He was such a good boy. About 5 hours in, I took him out, gave him some cuddles, gave him the pee pad. He didn't pee, he didn't do anything, so we just hung out, let him stretch his little leggies. I honestly just think he was stressed and nervous because in the car, normally he does not stop whining. So it was a huge surprise that he slept the entire time. I also gave him a little bit of food and a little bit of water, and then we landed.
After a minor detour, I dropped my phone behind the seat, so we had to get off last. I got Astro, and now we're on our way to go grab Tech. I hope he's doing okay.
You saw earlier I had no footage, but because of the 40-day notification, somebody was waiting in the baggage area for me, so I didn't even have to find the animal quarantine area myself.
Tech in Japan. Tech in Japan. And Astro in Japan. And Go is already in Japan.
I'm in Japan.
No, it's stressful, eh, buddy? So stressful. He's still stressed. He's gonna be stressed till we get home. He's not a card guy.
So hot.
Tech in Japan. He looks so tired. He looks done.
およそ 3km 先、浜崎橋ジャンクション、首都高速都心環状線を銀座方面です。右
I That's how I brought my dogs here. That's how I brought my dogs to Japan. The process itself wasn't that hard. What makes it difficult is that everything needs to be done in the proper order, on the proper dates, within the proper time frame. Otherwise, you get denied. So at the end here, I just want to do a couple tips and advice and things to look out for that were difficult for me. So even though this video is meant for Canadians, there's not a whole lot of content about this out there. So I'm assuming some people are going to come across my video that aren't trying to import from Canada. So definitely check if you're from a designated area or a non-designated area. The non-designated areas like Canada are this process that I just explained, but designated areas like Australia, Guam, there's a couple others, the process isn't as intense. The next bit of advice is about the microchip itself. Ask your vet, make sure it is ISO compliant. I don't know what that means. It's required for Japanese import. I'm sure your vet will know what it means. I think it's just a type of microchip. Also, make sure that the rabies vaccinations are non-activated. Also don't know what that means, but your vet will, and it's also a requirement for Japanese import. There's many different types of both of these things, so make sure you get the right one, because even if you did the whole process, if you got the wrong one, it's all invalid. The next piece of advice depends on the person. So I shopped around for vets. I had a regular vet for my dogs. However, this process is really expensive, so I shopped around in the area and I found one that was an hour drive away. The rabies titre test was $1,700, and that was the cheapest option I could find. Other than the actual process, this one's the most important in my opinion, but take those 10 minutes at the vet to go over all the documents. Check every single number, make sure they all match across all of the documents. Don't just blindly trust your vet. They're busy, they're probably dealing with a lot of animals. Just double check so that you can fix it before you leave, because you can't fix it once the government endorses it. This one's a little bit overkill, but I'd rather be overprepared than underprepared. Once I got all my documents that I needed to import my dogs, I also created 2 copies of every single document. One to put on my dog's carrier that was going in cargo, and one to keep with me. One copy was taped to my dog that went under cargo the entire time, so I don't know if that helped him get past anything or not. I wasn't with him, but it just made me feel better. So I know this tip is a big ask, but if at all possible, if you can, try to travel with somebody or have absolutely no carry-on bags with you other than your pet when you land. When they do the import and verification process, they do it right there in the baggage area with everybody else trying to wrap their bags across all of the flights, and your dogs are loud and they want to get out of their carriers and they're barking and people are staring, and it is very overstimulated. During all this time, the import officers are asking you very intense questions about long strings of numbers and dates and names and addresses, all in a Japanese accent, and it can get really difficult to concentrate, and I got so overstimulated, and those 15 minutes were more difficult than the actual process itself to get everything together. And my final tip, depending on the airport you're landing in, I'm guessing either Haneda or Narita, before you go, check the terminal you're landing in and look for where the closest place for your dog to go to the bathroom is once in the airport. This is because when you actually get your pet, you still have to wait like a full hour and a half to get through all of the processes before you can let your dog out of the carrier to go to the bathroom. And again, your dog's probably not going to be the happiest of campers at that moment, so they are going to let you know, so you just want to get through the airport and not have to worry about having to find the place in the heat of the moment. Okay, so that is the entire process from the first microchip all the way to us being here for 2 weeks now. I hope this helped at least one person. If you have any questions at all, ask me. I've been through the process. I've filled out all the forms correctly. I've applied to all the things properly. So if you have any questions at all, please, please, please ask me. I am more than happy to help anybody. Also, if you plan to move to Japan and you're thinking about bringing your pets, leave a comment down below. Let me know why you want to come to Japan and what pet are you bringing. I will also put all the important websites and documents in the caption below, so check that out if you're unsure where to go for the English instructions on the Japanese website. Okay, bye!